Fred Kerley is a former world champion in the 100-meter dash. And even in the year 2025, he was still one of the fastest men that we have in track and field. That said, we expected to see him at the World Championships competing in Tokyo. And then he pulled out of the USA Championships only like a few days or so before a report came out that the AIU was investigating him for whereabout violations. Ultimately, that put him through a provisional suspension. And that's all around the word, like the term PEDs. Long story short, he has made it clear, he has maintained his innocence, that the whereabout violations, that he was disputing it, that he's never taken, PEDs or done anything, dishonest in the sport. I'm inclined to believe him. But hey, that's not important, because I don't know what happened between that moment and now. But news just broke that Fred Kerley, yes, Fred Kerley, will be competing or has committed, signed contract, something with the Enhanced Games. Now, I've heard about this thing for a while, and I've never said anything about it on this channel. I don't plan on speaking about it all that much going forward. But considering, while the World Championships are going off in Tokyo, the sprinting races themselves are actively going, this news is broken. It's actively coming out, sending shockwaves around the track community. People are responding. I'm reading comment sections. I figured that it's about time for me to bring my voice to the conversation, because I had to take a moment to collect myself, because I have a whole lot of thoughts. Because this is not just about Fred Kerley. It's about the sport. Right now, I'll say the sport of sprinting, more than just track and field in general, but let's just say sprinting for the moment, and where the sport is headed. Now, full disclosure, you could probably tell already this is one of those videos where I originally had no intentions on making it. And I decided that you deserve to get 100% of my raw reactions. So with that in mind, I don't plan on doing much of any editing from this point on in the video. I'm gonna just let this thing rip. If you're brand new to this channel, shout out to you. I'm glad that you came to join us in this space. My name is Coach Rob, and if you want to know about the fastest athletes in the world, then you're in the right place. But I ain't doing no cut edits or anything in the middle. We just gonna let this rip. Let's get into it. I'm not gonna comment on Fred Kerley or his motivations. That's not my job. He can do what he thinks is best for him and his family, because ultimately the decision is his. So I'm gonna move off of that side of the conversation and go to all the big picture implications around this decision. Because he is just one athlete, the only track and field athlete who has agreed to compete in the Enhanced Games, which more or less is you opting out of the Olympic Games. Because if you're telling us that you're going to now go under a program where you're transparently going to use PEDs to compete at the highest level or what have you, if that's what you're telling us, you can see how that doesn't really work with, what we're doing in the sport, between world athletics, Olympics, all of that. Now, the implications are on a few different levels. So I'm going to try to just knock down all of it. And again, I'm just doing this entirely off head. The first thing is the reaction. Because when the news broke, at first I thought it was a joke. It's one of those things that when you see it once, you're like, this can't be real. And then you see other platforms starting to release the news. And then it's like, oh wait, Cities is talking about, this is a thing. That's my first reaction. And I'll be honest, even before this news came out, every time I have the thought around the Enhanced Games, I see something mentioning it, I'm going to be real. Can I be 100% raw with you? I get sick to my stomach. Now, I had to start dealing with why the moment this news came out. Because I had to wonder, why am I having such a visceral reaction? Because I don't really care about sport like that at all. People be in the comments thinking that I'm getting bent out of shape over whether Noah Lyles loses a 100-meter dash. I could care less. I don't know any of these people on that level. Even the people who I'm friends with in the track community who compete on the pro circuit, I don't get that emotionally attached to their performances. Yes, you might root for somebody, but it's irrelevant whether they win or lose. This is just sports, because sports is the entertainment business. And trust me, I'm coming back to that point in a moment. You can hold me to it. So when I talk about this reaction, because I was reading the comments and a lot of people are like, no, Fred, no. Or, just, so disappointed, frustrated, oh man, this is how he's going to go out. This is the end. This is the general temperature. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people who are for it. I'm just not seeing that as the general temperature in the water. So you can let me know in the comments if that's how you feel. If so, then please sound off. Let me know what I'm missing. Because I didn't know that there was a demand to watch, PED track and field. I didn't know there was a demand for it. But I understand the ideology behind it. So, from what I understand, the enhanced games, whatever they are, they don't really care about track and field specifically. Like, there's multiple sports, swimming, whatever, that they're going to include in this. Think of it as a replacement for the Olympics, sort of, kinda. And the idea is, hey, let's just see if we can test the limits of what athletes can do. But you got to understand, track and field is in a very unique place. So when I read Sports Illustrated's article, remember, I'm not doing any coverage footage, so you can go look it up for yourself. I read their article, start to finish, about, what quotes from Fred Kerley about why he chose to do this and, all the different things that went into it. And again, it's, gives some information. But fundamentally, he's talking about, wealth and equity and, basically the financial part of track and field comes up where it's like we're overregulated and we're underpaid. So when somebody's giving me an alternative, I'm inclined to consider it and see how that could, better suit my family. That might be true. Again, that's not for me to debate. But I said track and field is in a very unique state. So if we're talking about this as a viable option, like, the reaction from people should tell you something. That, again, I don't think there's a market for this. Because sports, when you talk about making money, you're in the entertainment business. The assumption is that people just want to see fast times, that they don't really care how we get them. And that's a lie. You know how we know it's a lie? Because you have to consider what people have been paying attention to in the sport till now. Let's use Usain Bolt, for example. Usain Bolt broke world records, plural. He didn't just do it once. The first time he did it, it was in New York City at essentially a random meet. It was the New York City Grand Prix. And I remember this pretty vividly when it went down. Nobody really cared, like the track and field community did. But the sports community didn't care that much because track and field wasn't that big to them. It's not just about the fast times. Usain Bolt then came back again to the Olympic Games in the 100-meter final, which is already a big deal. And then he broke a world record, his own world record. That is the moment he became a household name. It's the stage. It's the fact that people cared. And right now in track and field, the only thing that the sports community actually cares about is the Olympic Games. The World Championships is for the track community, but not for the sports community. And the track and field community has a whole lot of purists in it. People who don't want to change what the sport has been and what they understand it to be historically. That has held the sport back from progress, but I understand when I say that, I'm saying this from an American context. If we go down this path as a solution to the entertainment problem, because you can't pay people with money that doesn't exist. So the enhanced games is betting that there's a market for this. I don't believe the track and field community is the general market for it. You see where I'm going with this? Because I don't think the temperature of the water is that that's what people wanted. So who are they planning on selling this to? People who don't like track? Because they don't really have a frame of reference for what a world record is and what it isn't. Some people do, most people don't. It's the reason why the Breakfast Club can't figure out that men and women don't run the same times in the 100-meter dash. They thought that Sha'Carri Richardson and Christian Coleman run the same times, or that Sha'Carri was faster. When they looked it up, they still didn't understand the difference between a second gap between one athlete and another. Like, they couldn't process it. The only thing they know is you're winning versus not. It seems to me that competition is what we're after. So I don't know how the enhanced games plan on getting more competition, for Fred Kerley. I don't know how they plan on doing that. But I think it's pretty clear that any athlete who opts into this is going to severely shift how we perceive them going forward. I agree that track and field needs some renovation at the pro level. That is not up for debate. The question is, which route do we go? So if you're going down this path, good luck with that. Grand Slam track, I'm going to bring it up because Grand Slam track attempted to renovate the sport in a professionalized direction. And I think it's safe to say that at least the first year, with all the issues that happened, I guess we can kind of say that it didn't work. In the grand scheme of things, it didn't work. At least not yet. Or we don't know what the future is, but you get the point. May not be much of a future. May not. So if that's true, why did it not work? Because if it's not just about fast times, because people don't just want to see fast times, they want to see them packaged in a competitive environment that they understand. The Olympics sell the product. The World Championships, to a lesser degree, is trying to bottle that same product up. You're running to be the fastest in the world, and we're going to represent our nation. Like, people get that. That's not going anywhere, and I don't think it needs to. But on the pro side, we really don't know what we're doing. So Grand Slam track tried to give us something new, and that thing, didn't necessarily work out so far. But again, you can't pay people with money that doesn't exist. So if we look at what all the energy that went into that, and then the viewership issues, and the revenue issues, and the attendance issues, that needed to be rectified on the other end, including investors and so on. Like, eventually, even if you're wealthy, you don't just like shelling out money with no possibility of return. That's just not what people want to do. So when it comes to pro track, what we need is more competition. I think that's pretty clear. We need the best athletes competing in races that actually matter. Real stakes, and doing it more frequently, not less. That's just, it is what it is. There will be no model for track and field that leads to true prosperity at the pro level that angles towards one moment. I just don't see it. I don't see it. It might be historic, and that's fine at the Worlds. But in the pro circuit, we better figure out how to make the rest of these races have value. The international thing needs to be over here, and the pro stuff needs to be over there. The enhanced game is essentially going to ask athletes to choose a route, and they're hoping that they can become a, lucrative or an attractive route for some to go down. But I don't believe the temperature of the water is that people actually want this. That is the most important thing. And now let's get to the competitive implications. Because let's just assume that they go out there, Fred Kerley and friends, and they go run incredibly fast times and break world records. Now what? Are we supposed to get excited about it? Because all you're telling us is that the people who were running were clean. That's going to be the general assumption, that these people are, I guess, they're clean because their thing says it's okay, but they're dirty in the grand scheme. They're just like, oh, thank you for letting us know that when people take performance-enhancing, drugs, when people do PEDs, you're letting us know that, yes. Then they do it. They go faster if they do it under supervision, and yeah, okay, fine. We kind of knew that part already. Congratulations. I don't think people care that much about the clock. You see what I'm saying? Like, they don't. And when I say they, I mean the sports community. They don't really have as much of a scale for that. And whatever you're doing, if you're building a new track and field stage, people aren't going to care. Just being real, we've kind of found that out. Grand Slam track tried. The Diamond League, they've been found that out. That there's a cap on how far that product can go, especially when you're talking in the States. Continental Tour, they know. Those are more localized than anything else. Like, when you're selling a product, who are you selling it to? There needs to be actual buyers. So competitively, if they're going out there and breaking records, that's one option. But what happens if they don't? What happens if these athletes, Fred Kerley and friends, whoever chooses to sign up, doesn't go out there and break records? Then what? Because if they don't, all it's going to do is, it could do two things. One, it could backfire on the entire sport and make it look like, okay, so these people announce that they're doing things and they're still not breaking records. So if they're slower or about the same as the people who are allegedly, being reviewed and are clean, are they clean? Are they not? Do these things not make an impact? Like, all of this could backfire on the sport and make the rest of the sport look bad. In either direction, it will just trivialize what else we have going on. I don't see how running the records under these designations helps anybody. And I don't see, and I'm even going to go further. Sports at its core, why do people enjoy it? Because it's very real drama. Yes, you can watch a movie with a script, but this is very real drama. We don't know what's going to happen. It's the reason why Jamaican fans are so excited when Oblique Seville goes out there and wins the 100-meter dash, because they believed he was going to do it. Some of them were incredibly confident. They believed in his coach, all of that. But they didn't know he was going to do it. It still actually had to happen. The same way Noah Lyles fans were excited when he won the gold last year in the Olympics. Same deal. They didn't know what was going to happen. This is very real drama. But in sports, we have rules. Rules exist for one true purpose. Without rules, we can't enjoy the game. You just can't. They exist so we can enjoy the game to the fullest. Imagine a basketball game with no out-of-bounds line, or one without fouls. At first, it will resemble basketball because you're still running on the fumes of what the game used to be. But that's because people's minds have not run yet to the potential implications of what they could do. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh, we're playing basketball without fouls. Why can't I just tackle you and pummel you? Why can't I do it? Like, once your brain gets there, it doesn't even resemble basketball anymore. It might resemble track competition at first. But after a while, when people are throwing a whole bunch of stuff at the wall in terms of, using whatever means to be able to compete at the highest level, you're no longer watching sports. At that point, you're watching who has the best chemist, who has the best supplier. Yes, there'll be some regulation, but that defeats the point if you're regulating it. You get where I'm going with this. It defeats the point. It's almost like watching Jeopardy, where people are bringing their own open AI models like ChatGPT or whatever it is. And they're saying, like, okay, I'm going to use this while I'm competing. And it's like, okay, you got Google Copilot. It's not Jeopardy anymore. We're no longer testing who's the smartest, who's the fastest on the trigger. We're testing who has the best computer. Because if I can get a better computer than you do, or if I can get better enhancement than you do, it really won't matter what you do. Think of it another way. Imagine bringing a Honda Civic to a NASCAR race. It doesn't matter how good a driver you are. That Honda Civic ain't gonna work. It's not gonna get you around that track fast enough in order to get to the goal. You're gonna have to level up. So when you put people in a position where you call it competition, but add these variables in, it loses a lot of integrity. In sports, people have physical limitations, height, weight, genetics, all of these things that go into it, wingspan, people's bodies respond differently and all of that. But we still call it fair because the limitations are within yourself. That's why they put guardrails on what you can and cannot take, what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot wear. They even let you wear whatever spikes you want to wear. Like the spikes you put in the shoe have to be a specific type of spike. All of this is to regulate the competition so that there's a degree of fairness. And any attempt to take sport of any kind, but track and field included, and you want to remove some of those guardrails, it only resembles the sport at first until it gets all the way off into the deep end. The rules exist so we can enjoy it to the fullest. Track and field doesn't need to reinvent the nature of the sport. We don't need to change the events all the way, make them something different. Because the sport has been in such a stale place for a long time, there's a sense of we need more in the sport, even though not everybody's ready to do what's required. Just that's my opinion, my general temperature of where the water is. I don't think everybody's on board with doing what's required to get us to a new place, because it doesn't seem that hard to me. But regardless, even though that may be where we're at, nobody really knows how to move forward. And that's what creates the void for this to try to fill. People do want to see fast times, don't get me wrong. But they really want to see them when it happens on a competitive stage that feels like it's fair. Because the Olympics is box office entertainment for the 100-meter final. People pay attention. And the only question is, how do you take that energy and replicate it somewhere else? The problem is the Olympic package only works at the Olympics. And nobody has concluded that you need a new package that can bring a similar energy or perhaps something even better. Remember, NBA basketball and international basketball are not the same product. They both look like basketball on the surface, but they're very different rules, very different structures, very different qualifications for playoffs and how you win a championship. And both products are able to sell on TV as marquee entertainment because they are diversified. But track and field has failed to do this as a sport, which created an opportunity for someone else who really doesn't care about the sport at all to slide up in there and create something and now attract one of the world's best. Historically, that's what he's been. To come over there under the pretense of building, equity and legacy and so on. What is the legacy of track and field going to be when this is done? Because I'll be honest, I don't see this thing going all that far. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Because we've already seen startup projects that get going and fail. Because remember, you're not in the sports business. You are in the entertainment business whenever you want to pay people. But what I'm going to say to all the athletes who might be listening to me right now, remember, you don't get paid what you're worth, you get paid what you negotiate. And all we have to do as a track and field community is figure out what we want and then negotiate for it. Otherwise, they'll pick the sport apart. One piece, one athlete at a time. In the sport of track and field, confidence is everything. Because when you win, that is just the moment when everybody else finds out what you already knew to be true. That fast is a lifestyle. Get your Fast is a Lifestyle track and field gear at scarecruiting.com/shop or use the link in the description below. It's a huge support to me and this channel so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.